Good morning, PT on Ice community. It is Monday. Welcome. Happy Monday. My name is Mike Eisenhart. I am your lead for the APHPT track of courses here on the Ice channel. And this morning we're going to talk about finding some fun in play. Finding kind of the fun side of work and what can be done in the workplace to make things a little more fun to actually move the herd. So as you know, today is a little Monday with Pop, it being Monday, talking a little bit about population health and some things that we can do to influence the group to move them in the right direction. Hey, good morning, Kelsey. So I'm going to go ahead and start the clock and get rolling. I got a busy day, so I got to get moving and get this rolling. Okay, so in probably 10 to 12 minutes or less, let's talk about finding some fun. So the reason why I kind of brought this topic up is, it's sort of like the all work and no play makes, Mike a dull boy kind of thing. And the reason why is because I have that tendency, right? I'm pretty convinced that I've got the high potential to fall into the rabbit hole of workaholism. That used to be a big thing. People used to talk about that a lot, like, oh, I'm a workaholic now. It seems like the pendulum has gone the other way into the work-life balance thing, but everybody's sort of concerned about maintaining their work-life balance. And then there are like weirdos like me who are often sort of left on the outside looking in and being like, wow, well, I wonder what it would be like to be concerned about that, I just doesn't even concern me, it's just kind of like having a balance would be nice. And I got to thinking about that because it's really been a very busy couple of weeks. For me, I get on a plane again today and head out to Pittsburgh for some meetings, which is all very exciting, and followed up from a couple of weeks ago out in Chicago, and then last week, I was in Raleigh-Durham, having a really awesome meeting, and it was just like there's just a lot of really cool stuff going on. And, for the most part, there's some tedious stuff that goes along with work, but for the most part, I have a blast. This is what I love to do. It's what I live to do. And then this past weekend, we started off the Summer of Move, and that's rolling, and people are doing stuff. And if you're in kind of that private workplace group that we've got rolling, I see people doing cardiorespiratory fitness testing, but let's be honest, like CRF testing is work, especially for those of us who are professionals. This is part of our work. And if you ask somebody and say, hey, how do you love doing extra tests and measures, and do you love doing documentation? I don't think we're going to find anybody who says, yeah, like throw me another test that I can do. Give me one more thing I can test for one of my clients, and let me get after that. So it's a hard thing because we know we need to do it, right? We know if we want to move a group toward health, or an individual even, they kind of have to know where they stand. They sort of have to know where they're starting. But it can get really tedious really quickly. And so the question becomes, how can we as professionals inject a little bit of fun? How can we make it more fun, something that people want to do? Now, I've talked about this in the past. We've often covered the idea that, in many ways in the population health space, or even in the lifestyle medicine, lifestyle PT, behavior change space, it's about being in the change business. That's what we're doing as professionals, right? We're helping people start at one state and end up in another state. In population health, we're talking about outcomes of a group. That's like, if you really dive into the definition of what is population health, it talks about the outcomes of the group. Like, not only like the current status, but what's the outcome you're working on? Well, in this case, we're trying to move the needle, on overall fitness and health. And we're doing that through movement. And there are a lot of really, dry, boring ways to get after that, right? Like we could just lecture people like crazy and tell them all about it. We could, go on and constantly talk about it with our friends and family, which is something I'm a big fan of actually, is, try to have that conversation. But it's way better if you just kind of learn by doing, and then it prompts a conversation. And so I think what I wanted to do was talk a little bit about how can we as professionals do that more frequently, because, we kind of hold the keys. We have everything we need. There's no shortage of things that we can do that can make a difference in someone's life. The shortage is showing people that it's worth it, right? Like the it can be done part, that's pretty easy. And, there are those two questions. We often talk about it. Like, can it be done? And then secondly, is it worth it? Well, it's worth it. It's definitely worth it. We know, like the stats are there, right? Like make some of these lifestyle changes and you can see a totally different person on the end, at the end, the outcome is completely different. But in order to pull that off, we've got to get people to do it long enough that they can actually see that it's under their control, right? Like I got this. Like that moment has to happen. Like that self-efficacy moment has to happen. It's no different than being in a therapeutic alliance with someone, right? It's no different in working with someone and saying, hey, my interventions are going to help you get where you want to go. We're going to achieve our goals. The difference is the goals seem a little bit bigger, maybe a little bit broader. The ocean seems a little bit deeper for people, but it's the same basic idea, same basic process. And so when we stop and think about that, right, there is some skill involved. There's some skill in kind of looking for things and saying, all right, we need to accomplish that. How can we, figure it out enough to make it, kind of doable? All right, so in the past, I've talked about things like leaderboards, and the effect of leaderboards. And, there's no question like that is at this point, I mean, it's actually documented. In one of the courses, we actually go over that. I actually refer to the study that came out and showed that leaderboards have a more positive effect than when you look at just, information. Right, so if we inform someone and we kind of give them social support, that we know is a really big lever that we can pull to change things. But believe it or not, the leaderboard effect actually outshined the social support effect, which is amazing. But that means that it's pretty simple, right? Like you could literally set up a whiteboard and have something on there and say like, yeah, I put down tally marks, and the natural tendency of humans is to compete, and so we'll say, well, I want to do better than that, and we'll push ourselves a little bit more. Okay, we'll take one more step. So that's an easy one. That's low-hanging fruit. And honestly, I think you can do that with almost anything. Almost anything, right? That's just kind of human, drive. That drive to succeed. So that's one. The second thing is that creating an unknown, right? Like that's another critically human thing. And I think that we don't do that enough. We want to explain everything all the time to everyone in like gory detail. Right, we want to give everybody like we've gone to this like informed consent, like weird world, like way out on over the horizon, and we take the mystery out of everything. Humans are built to explore. We're built to do different things. We're built to pioneer, and that may not be just physical pioneering, like the people who moved west kind of a thing. That might be like pioneering in our own brain, connecting ideas, exploring new concepts. I mean, like curiosity is at the heart of what makes us human. And so I think when we do things, whatever those things are, we can add that element of mystery and curiosity, right? So let me give you an example. Like again, I'm not in the clinic treating very often, okay? But we know in probably almost every session, whether it be treatment or whether it be training, there are some things that people don't want to do, right? There's that exercise that they don't want to do. And you as a clinician may have, not enough time to do all the things that you want to do. So one of those things is not going to happen, but one of those things you have the time for. Well, could you just simply make a random draw? Like, how simple would that be? You probably you need to do those things, but you may not be able to have the time to do all of them in every session. Could you make it a random draw? Could you say, hey, the mystery card today is, and we pull out, guess what? We're going to work on, rear foot elevated split squats. Like, great. Like you won the lottery. That right there is going to prompt exploration and engagement. And when we get an engagement, when someone's focused on the task, they're much more likely to actually complete it and push forward. And we know that. So that's another one, right? Exploration, this idea of mystery and leaving things a little bit unknown. Okay. The third thing is the sort of benefit we get when we figure something out. And so that's beyond mystery, actually puzzle, right? Like this idea of, instead of just like raw exploration, pieces that come together, things that we can see create resolution. That is another very critical lever that we can use when we're trying to move the herd, right? Giving people enough to begin to engage. But think about what happens when a person has a puzzle in front of them. If you've ever seen that happen, you got the puzzle on the table. We used to have them in, when we would go on like family vacations, there's always like a puzzle on the kitchen table for like the rainy day, right? And what would happen is people would walk by and they would look at the puzzle and and then they would, I got one, and they'd put one there and they'd walk away. Nothing wrong with that. And then before you know it, there was a moment, it was like critical mass, where then all of a sudden the puzzle was starting to form and everybody got locked in. And everybody would sit down and really, try to figure this thing out. Why? Again, our nature is such that we want to have resolution. We like things that create dissonance and then resolution. Right? Think about the last time you heard a symphony, or if you like that type of music. Any type of music really goes through the same transition, right? They kind of bring up this sound that's a little bit dissonant in your ear, and like it doesn't quite fit, and then all of a sudden it kind of resolves at the end, and then everything kind of becomes harmonic again, and your whole body goes like and like that's exactly the principle that we can use to move a herd. So let me give you an example of that. right? Creating a little bit of confusion, right? In training, we call that variability. But could you do it with something else? Could you get someone to try something, create a little confusion in their scenario, and then help them to resolve that confusion? Let's look, for example, on something that we do every day, right? Like okay, we eat every day. We know nutrition is something that we need to get better at to move the herd. We know that, right? We can't argue it anymore. That there's enough disease tied to nutritional intake that we've got to make sort of change those things. We know, for example, kids are a really hard group when it comes to eating healthy. Like, they're a really tough group. They don't love any of that stuff, right? The texture is like, a little too much for them. The flavors might not be where they want it to be. Like, they like basic stuff, right? Like, every kid will eat French fries, but no kid is going to eat broccoli willingly. Like, that kind of a thing. So how can we make it a bit of a puzzle? How can we create a resolution? I mean, as crazy as it sounds, I honestly think you could move the herd by teaching kids how to cook. By like helping them understand. And I mean, we've all done this. When you were a kid, think about it, right? Did you ever mix up, whatever, like you found 3 or 4 different drinks and you put them in a cup, and then like you were like, oh, and everybody's going to taste it, and like, hey, mommy, daddy, have a taste of this. And it's like your coffee combined with like orange juice and some other thing. And you're like, oh, God, all right, yeah. And take a little sip. I mean, if you don't have kids, it's going to happen. If you have kids at some point, they're going to bring you some creation that they're incredibly proud of. And they will work hard to convince themselves that thing tastes good, even though everyone knows it tastes like garbage. We all did it as kids. Kids do that because they want resolution. They want to explore, create, and then resolve something. Now, what we see in our kids is the same exact thing that's happening to us as adults. We're just better at controlling it and ignoring it, right? They still want to explore and play. They want to make connections and find things. We all have that same drive. So if we were to use that drive to our advantage, even in our senior clients, right? Even in patients who are old, 90 plus, they still have those same drives. And if we use those drives, we can move the herd. So I think those are the kinds of things. It's about finding ways to create exploration and fun, make things into games. Now, if we would do that, right? Now again, this is not a new concept, the idea of like gamification. That was a thing for a while. Everybody was talking about gamification, turning everything into a game. Obviously, it's a help. It's a lever. But what we always then need to do, and I'll wrap it up in my last 3 minutes here, is we need to pull it back around and show how that actually gave someone the controls of their health. If we just make it a game and leave it alone, we actually won't get where we want it to go, right? Well, with a few people we will, but not very many. Whereas if we go back and then reflect on it and say, do you realize what you just did? Like, wow. Like, what you just did was exactly, like, that's another level altogether, and you've got it within you. You have the processing power. So let me give you a final example, and then I'll leave you alone. So a little pat on the back for Coach. This past weekend, my U12, my under 12 tackle rugby team, which I've been coaching for the last several months, we finished up our season. We went out to Doylestown, Pennsylvania, which is about 45 minutes from here, where I'm at, and we took the team out there to play against 2 Pennsylvania teams in a bit of a round-robin tournament. This is a brand new program. We just started this year. I have kids who have never seen the sport before, stepping out on the field. Now, if I would have told you 3 or 4 months ago when we started that we were going to be attempting to play fairly high level, fast rugby, moving the ball, passing the ball accurately, having multiple what we call phases of rugby, these are all like rugby terms. Bottom line is that there never in a million years would we have gotten there. So I knew I had kids who had never played the sport, and by the end of the season, I would be playing against programs that have been, doing this for years, right? Some programs have been at this game, building feeder programs for 15, 20 years. This is my first year. I also knew that the problem was if I didn't show some progress and get these kids to win a few games, there was no way they're going to come back. Right? Like if it's not fun, I mean, winning is fun. If you don't win at least a little bit, if you just get pounded on every single game, which is what happens a lot of times on these brand new programs, we're never going to be able to move the herd toward the sport. And I'm certainly not going to be able to move the crowd, meaning all the other kids who are standing on the sideline thinking maybe they'd like to play this sport, never going to get them involved. So we're using the exact same principles. So what do? All season long, I'm turning it into games. I'm having fun with it. And what we're doing is we're taking those games. Sorry, my daughter was getting ready to pop in the car. So we're taking those games and we're finding ways to then move them toward learning the techniques. Okay. Well, by the end of the season, 3 months later, we go in, we play these other 2 teams, and we won. We won 4 games in a row. Got a little trophy at home to show for it. Coach took the first time the base camp AC, U12 tackle team took some hardware home. Why? Because they understood by the end that they could handle it. Now, the coolest thing ever, by far, the coolest thing that happened for me is not the win. I mean, winning is fun, sure. But the coolest thing was seeing parents from other teams come up and ask us and say, hey, that is amazing. What you have these kids doing, I've never seen. It's amazing. I've never seen kids play like this, right? Like they're so organized. They're so unselfish. Right? They're passing the ball off. They could score the try. They're passing it off to their buddy who hasn't scored one yet today, and they're scoring the try. Like, how are you doing it? And the truth of the matter is that, like, there's nothing special. Like, you know, I'm not Bear Bryant. I'm not some sort of crazy coach. Like, how am I doing it? I'm letting the kids do what kids do. I'm letting them explore the sports. I'm putting some bumpers on it. We're having some fun, and they believe that they can. And that right there is at the heart of moving a herd. Now, that happened to be with rugby, a skill that, you know, I enjoy, and it was kind of a hobby. It is the exact same concepts if we want to move people toward nutrition, or toward movement, or toward, you know, sleep, or toward better resilience, or toward better social connection. It's all the same stuff. There's no mystery here. Okay? It's understand, oh, there's the bell, I got to get going. It's understand what you're trying to accomplish. At the end of the day, I want this to happen. Work it back to those simple behaviors that you know need to occur in order to make it happen. What are the roots? Get to the roots, and then find a way to do that over and over and over and over again until it becomes automatic. The only way that's going to happen, it will not happen with drudgery. It will happen with fun. So if you can find a way to make the fun happen today, like in your day today, find a way to do something, anything with any of your clients, friends, patients, families, whoever, okay, and make it a little bit more fun. And then when they light up, when that smile goes across their face, and you know, give them that high five, and you give them that positive affirmation that they did it, you watch what happens. The next person next to them will want to do it, and the person after that, and the person after that, and away you go. The crowd starts to change. Make it obvious, make it fun, and put it out in front of other people, and let them figure it out, and you'll be surprised how easy it is to make the herd move. All right, I got to go. You know, the next round of the fundamentals course is kind of getting going. If you haven't signed up, I think we're starting up in August, and you're interested in this kind of stuff, please dive in. It's been so much fun to see the needle move, and sort of the therapists in the world get involved in this kind of way of thinking. If you're not paying attention to the summer move and you didn't register, well, you're too late. But it'd be nice to have you pay along and cheer the people on who are doing it. They got some hard stuff coming up in front of them. You know, we got the rising tide. It's going to be here before you know it. Look at that. Take a hard look at that. If you want to go out and do some hiking in New Hampshire and learn quite a bit from some really great people, consider that. And then last thing, just a thank you very much. Many people from this channel have reached out, and they listened to one of the recent podcasts I was on about leadership. And I just, you know, as a moment of gratitude, you know, thank you for listening and giving me that positive vibe. That was it's been a really, really cool feedback. All right, wish me luck in Pittsburgh. We got some really important meetings to talk to some big employers about. We'll go from there. More news on that hopefully next week. Have a great week. It's only Monday. It's only Monday. Make it count.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to the PT on Ice Daily Show. If you enjoyed this content, head on over to iTunes and leave us a review. And be sure to check us out on Facebook and Instagram at the Institute of Clinical Excellence. If you're interested in getting plugged into more ICE content on a weekly basis while earning CEUs from home, check out our virtual ICE online mentorship program at ptonice.com. While you're there, sign up for our Hump Day Hustling newsletter for a free email every Wednesday morning with our top 5 research articles and social media posts that we think are worth reading. Head over to ptonice.com and scroll to the bottom of the page to sign up.